Wow. Didn't I say that? I said, if this thing is a squash, I said that last week. I think the foot injury is kayfabe. My gut instinct, I could be totally wrong, watching how that was presented, I feel like Punk's foot injury is just the story. That's the reason he lost. He injured the foot. Moxley was able to paradigm shift him and beat him, and that was it. I don't think an audible was called there. See, look, he didn't injure it off the ropes. He's trying to pretend like he did it on the enziguri. That is totally kayfabe, guys. That's the story, and this is probably what they're going to use to write him off of TV. He's now broken his foot or whatever, needs another surgery. That's crazy. Anyway, still taking all that in. Now Christian's going to try to cut this, what I'm sure is a great promo on Jungle Boy, but like I give a fuck right now. Jesus, we just saw CM Punk get annihilated. You know, Jay Lambo, I'm going to answer all the super chats in 1 second, but I did mention in the podcast last week that if we see a scenario play out where CM Punk gets squashed by Jon Moxley, that tells me that he must be leaving the company or something, because they're like, fuck doing it all out. Let's just do it now. Give me my belt back. You get out of here. Or, you know, maybe Tony Khan would have felt obligated to have to punish CM Punk in some way. So you're going to go out there and get squashed. But the way the match went down, even though it was a squash because CM Punk injured his foot on the attempted kick. He went down. The foot was the story. He broke his foot in the middle of the match. You can't do nothing if you have a legitimate broken foot, So Moxley was able just to pick him up and hit him with his finisher and pin him. There was nothing CM Punk could do. But like, what better way to capitalize on all this internet buzz going around with CM Punk and Hangman Page and AEW and all this shit than to do some really shocking, crazy finish? So if they already know what the outcome is going to be, Moxley's going to go with the title for whatever reason. Maybe Punk needs more time to rest the foot. Maybe he needs another surgery. So if that's the decision, okay, so how can we make that as shocking as possible? Fucking squash me. I'll do a deal where I go for a kick, I break my leg, or I break my ankle, and then Moxley just easily takes advantage of me, paradigm shifts me, and calls it a day. Fans will go nuts. They'll be talking. They'll assume that I was punished. They'll assume I'm leaving the company and going to WWE. They're going to assume a lot, and all of what they assume is going to be wrong. Only we know what's going on. I could totally see and envision a scenario like that taking place, because that's what I would do. If I'm any party here, if I'm Tony Khan, Moxley, Punk, anybody like that, I'm saying, well, let's take advantage of this. We already have a ton of buzz, and fans are already talking, gossiping. They think we got a ton of drama. Maybe we do, but might as well make the best of it. So you give the fans a finish that makes them shit their pants, then you get Twitter talking about us instead of the big double W's. So think about it that way. Yeah, see, good point, Wilson Pena. They just released a CM Punk shirt. He's been saying on Instagram and in social media posts how happy he is. Hangman Page addressed the call-out in being the Elite. He got his ass handed to him tonight by Jon Moxley. It seems like any issues that might have happened have been resolved now. I think it's safe to say. I mean, that could have been also Tony Khan saying, hey, like, I wouldn't say it's exactly like the curtain call, but Vince found himself in that position with Hunter. He's like, I have to punish you, otherwise I look like a schmuck. So Tony Khan might be in that position too, and a lot of this is Tony Khan's own doing, hugging his talent and professing his love to CM Punk right there in front of the world in a media scrum, which, just really gives Punk all the momentum or leverage anyway, and the power and control in the relationship, to where maybe he felt like he had the power to go off script. So now Tony Khan's got heat, the locker room's talking, morale is down, people are getting frustrated or confused or angry or whatever, and maybe TK found himself in the same position where he had to call CM Punk into a room and like, look, this shit has greatly affected the backstage environment in the company. Don't you see? I have to punish you now. I mean, if you fight this or reject this, that's selfish, because now you're putting yourself ahead of everybody else that's now in a bunch of turmoil because of this stuff. I have to discipline you for this. So next week, or maybe Punk's like, maybe he's like, you're right, I shouldn't have done that. That was unprofessional. Take the belt off me. Squash me next week on Dynamite. I deserve it. And then Tony Khan's like, it's a fucking good idea. Yeah, okay, we'll do that. You can take a few months off, get your foot healed up, and by then you can come back, start fresh, and we'll see where we stand in a few months. Is that cool? Handshake. Cool, boss. Nice. Glad we got this resolved. Punk approaches Moxley. Yeah, next week you're just gonna kick my ass. I'm gonna give the belt to you. Take a few months off. Come back heel. That could be very well exactly how this whole thing played out. Yeah, exactly. Domination. Maybe a little dose of humble pie, and that's what you have to do. And Punk should be mature and respectful enough to understand that this is a brand new company. It's only 3 years old. There's going to be growing pains. You should be there to help this, not cause problems. And if he is being difficult or something and he's causing tension and he's adding to tension backstage, that's not what we're paying you for. We're not bringing you in to fuck shit up. We're bringing you here to be star power on our roster, to give the fans back somebody they haven't seen in nearly a decade, to be a locker room leader in a sense, to be somebody who others can go to for advice and questions, and you can just be a big star presence in the locker room. That's going to help us. And if it starts having the opposite effect, that's a problem. So that's got to be dealt with. Otherwise, in a few short months, you will be WCW, and you don't want that. So I'm hoping that maybe Tony Khan manned up, put his big boy boss pants on, and understood that, wow, you can love your talent, but you're still the boss. I believe there's money in heel Punk and babyface MJF, especially if you keep MJF off TV. You just keep the charade going. Fans continue to grow frustrated. This is a fucking hell of a match here. Wondering where MJF is. He still never comes back. CM Punk does come back in a few weeks. He's a massive heel. He's an asshole. And maybe he even does something shady to win back the AEW title from Moxley or whoever the champ is. Cheats, does something fucked up, but wins the belt back. Next Dynamite, going off on the mic. Brutal promo. You know nobody can touch me in this ring or on this mic. No one's more brutal than me, or nobody's more brutally honest than me, or say something like that, and then boom, out of nowhere, Maxwell's standing right behind him. Fucking crowd is shitting their pants and throwing it in the ring. They're so excited. Orangutans hanging from the rafters. Holy shit. Attacks CM Punk, beats him down, stands over him, holds up the AEW title. It's babyface Max. It's heel CM Punk. That's our program going forward. I'll be tuning in every goddamn Wednesday to watch that, I'll tell you right now. So I like that idea. So let's see if they do it. Face MJF is very interesting. He's an awesome heel, though. He's too entertaining as a heel to even consider going face, but I think it could work with CM Punk. Maybe another thing that they could do is a two-man power trip. Maybe MJF comes back, joins CM Punk. They come back together at the same time. That I actually wouldn't do. It's kind of like having two people retire in the same match. I'm like, that's stupid because you're taking the spotlight away from one of them. I think both of those returns deserve their own, kind of platform. But you could have them come back and seemingly be about to feud. Like, what if that same scenario plays out? Punk is cutting that promo, saying all that shit, and then MJF turns up from behind him. The fans start going nuts because they know MJF's babyface, and he's going to attack CM Punk. And when Punk turns around, instead of MJF attacking him, Punk smiles. MJF smiles. They embrace. The crowd goes nuts, and you fucking fade to black while they are hugging like Index on NXT. And the show just goes off the air. And you're like, what the hell was that? You're not going to be able to find out until Friday or next Wednesday or whenever. It's not something everyone would do. I'm sure there was plenty that would say, turn MJF face, are you fucking nuts? No, actually, I've been watching wrestling for 40 years, as a matter of fact. So, not nuts, but I like having ideas. Ooh. Yeah, Roderick, that's what I've always said. Now, Tony Khan, you got to understand, AEW's 3 years old, and he's already made some mistakes. He's going to make more. He hasn't had the luxury of doing this for 40 years or doing this for as many years as Triple H has. He's very new at this, and he's doing it at a high level with no experience doing it before. So any fans that expect perfection out of him are crazy. Any of the fans criticize him for not being perfect are even crazier. That's why I don't understand why people jump all over Tony Khan's ass. I'm like, what the fuck do you expect? This is a wrestling fan billionaire who's trying to build a company. And before AEW was even thought of, before the idea of AEW even crossed anyone's mind, we were saying on this channel that it was going to take some sort of billionaire who loved wrestling, who had enough money to where they don't have to worry about ownerships or being sold off or, anything that really caused the downfall of WCW and Impact and TNA and things like that. I'm like, if you just get some guy like Mark Cuban, I used him as an example, who's just kind of crazy and will just spend money on weird shit, that's what you want. You need a guy that loves wrestling, wants to dedicate money to it, and doesn't freak out if it loses money the first year or whatever, is willing to spend and is willing to invest and do it. And we now have that dude. He's kind of like a Mark Cuban. He's a sports team owner with billions of dollars sitting at the bank. So he's got the money to do it. He's not going to be so terribly worried about losses and shit right away. And he's not going to be, hanging on by a thread financially and going on the verge of bankruptcy. They are well funded. So he's giving it a shot. And I always said that that's what it's going to take. You need somebody that cares. You need somebody that loves wrestling, because if you just get some jerk off that wants to make money off wrestling, then your company's not going to be successful, because he could lose interest, sell it off, whatever. You'll have no longevity, no history, and you'll never build your brand globally as a, multi-decades long, old, I should say, company. So the only way we're ever going to have one of those again, other than WWE, is for an owner like that to come around. Now we have it, and for some reason, the tribal ass monkeys have a huge problem with the absolute perfect person to be a wrestling owner becoming a wrestling owner. What the fuck do they want? They want somebody that has no wrestling knowledge at all, doesn't care about wrestling at all, to own a company. They're not going to know what to do, who to hire, what kind of talent is out there. They're not going to know nothing. If they get hired people to do that, sure, but it's not the same. So let Tony Khan do his thing. Let him make his mistakes. Oh my God, what a cutter. Let AEW grow and experience peaks and valleys, not only in the ratings, but, with their roster or with fan interest or with locker room morale. I can't wait to read what the internet digs up and what all the trusted news sites that I visit tell me about this situation and what we learn in the upcoming hours and upcoming days, because that was just some crazy shit. Twitter crapped its pants. I think AEW should, hopefully, another thing they got to think about now is they really need to have a good rating for this show. I mean, if this pulls in under 1 million, I think that's going to be kind of disappointing. They are very consistent with the ratings. They're always in that 900,000 range. But for a show like this with Jon Moxley and Punk doing the match in the middle of the show, you would hope that we saw a huge spike there. And maybe CM Punk didn't want to take the loss in Chicago. That's possible too, C-Mac. We don't know. It seemed like a strange finish. The timing of it seemed even stranger. The only thing I can think of in terms of for the reason why they placed the match where they did tonight is ratings. Otherwise, this would have been a great way to close out the show, because, man, it would have had fans asking a lot of questions. But maybe part of the point here was to not have that be the lasting image, which does lead to more speculation that maybe CM Punk could be leaving the company or something. If they got the match done out of the way in the middle of the show, didn't even give CM Punk the pleasure of doing it in the main event, to where the fans are going to do nothing but talk about that for a week. We have a whole nother hour of wrestling where we do something else and, try to move on in the best way we can. It's odd all around, and it's great because it's really kind of juicy behind the scenes, and I love that stuff. So it'll be fun to read how all this went down. Okay, so there's a replay, except somebody fucking Bixen span set it to some music. But when you see the slow down replay of him delivering that kick to Moxley that injured his foot, nothing was twisting there at all. And hell, he jumped off that top rope earlier. So that is a total kayfabe injury in my mind, and that's part of the story. So when I see that almost assures me as a fan that CM Punk is likely not leaving the company. I think it's much more likely that he's sticking around, and this was just all part of the story. Whether or not he got beat this fast because of some sort of punishment, or if it was just because that he hurt his foot, you kind of don't know now. Or maybe it was a compromise, or Tony Khan's like, I got to squash you. Well, at least let me injure my foot so it doesn't look too bad. Maybe it was something like that. I don't know. But I love speculating about it. Well, maybe it could be this, or maybe it could be that. One thing I'm never going to do, however, is claim that I absolutely know what's going on, because I don't.